4 years ago, I went to Alaska to meet Charles Funk to learn about Heliostar Metals. Shortly after that, gold hit a horrible market and the share price collapsed. But over the last 2 years, something really interesting has happened. That stock has gone up by 5x. I'm about to head down to Mexico, where they have a whole new package of assets to check out what is going on there and to bring investors with me to see firsthand how a gold mining company actually operates on the ground. But first, I'm gonna head to Vancouver Island, meet up with Heliostar CEO, Charles Funk, and learn exactly what happened since our last visit. My name's Jamie Keech. I'm a mining engineer and natural resource investor. The mining industry has brought me to some of the most interesting places in the world, from coal mines in Mongolia, gold projects in Brazil and Peru, to building iron ore mines north of the Arctic Circle. Today, I travel the world looking for the best investment opportunities that I can find. I get my hands dirty, my boots on the ground, and leave no stone unturned. This is the Resource Insider. Just a short ferry ride from Vancouver, Vancouver Island is one of the most beautiful places on Earth. I think we're coming up to it now. This is a cool area. I've not been to this part of Vancouver Island before. I think that this is Charles's house right here. Got some horses in the field. Look at that, that's pretty nice actually. Cool. All right, let's go find Charles. Where is this guy? He said to meet him up by the barn here. Hey.
Welcome to my place.
Thanks for having me.
Jamie, is there a look?
Good to see you. Oh, nice. When we first met, you were living in an apartment in Vancouver. How did you end up in a horse farm on Vancouver Island?
Well, after the success of Visa, I was able to buy a place, and it's allowed us to live basically a life similar to how I grew up.
What, I mean, you obviously grew up in Australia. Where were you? What were you doing?
Middle of nowhere, country Australia, 5,000 sheep I could shear, I got a wool classing certificate. But there was no money in farming in the 90s. So I went away to uni and actually studied space science. But that was the start of that huge mining boom in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I kind of worked out, I joked that there was more money in looking down than looking up.
Don't find a lot of gold mines in space right now.
Not that I can make money from, anyway. Got really lucky, came out in a huge point of the cycle.
You were at Newcrest?
I was with a company called Oxiana that BHP, the biggest mining company in the world, acquired recently. Learnt the science really well, so got really good exposure as a geologist. Made a discovery for a big company, was involved in a discovery, got a pat in the back effectively.
Where was
for
that?
A place called Carmsden in South Australia, middle of Australia effectively.
And then how did you end up starting to work in North America?
Then went and worked for Newcrest, a very, very large gold company, and I was in charge of looking for new opportunities in the Americas. So I started traveling a lot. And that's how I came to Vancouver, it's how I followed BC. And I recognized that there was money to start a business here. I wanted to be more entrepreneurial. I wanted to be successful in business.
So it was that venture environment that really attracted you here?
Absolutely, and there's not many places in the world, maybe Perth, maybe Vancouver, Toronto, London.
Yeah.
Vancouver's maybe the nicest of all of those.
When did you stop working for the majors and start working with the juniors?
Yeah, so I got this great technical background. I got to see projects all around the world with the big companies. And so then I looked for a more entrepreneurial start. And I didn't know capital markets. I didn't know how to raise money. I didn't know what was needed. So I started for a little company called Evrim Origin Royalties. It's gone on to be quite successful, but that's where I got to know Mexico. And I saw so much potential in Mexico that stuck with me from then until now. Yeah, so come with me. I'll show you our house and we'll have something to eat.
It's been almost exactly 4 years since we went to Alaska together to visit the Unga project. At the time, you were a relatively early stage exploration company focused on a remote island in the Aleutians, and so the tip of Alaska. Now you're a gold miner in Mexico. What's happened over the last 4 years?
It's been an incredible journey, and it involves failure and learning. So as you know, the market was pretty good in 2021, 2020 period.
There was a lot of money for exploration, a lot of money going into acquisitions.
And that tap just started drying up. And what we learned is we had a good project, which we still own and we're still exploring, but we need a lot of money for Unga. And if we'd have done that, we would have had to give away huge percentages of our company. And we realized that wasn't the smart move.
And so let's dig into that a bit. What do you mean give away huge percentages?
So when we started, we were above $1 share price, and we went all the way down to 20 cents. If you're worth $10 million and you raise $10 million at $1, you give up half. If you raise that at 20 cents, you give up 4/5 of your company. It just wasn't the smart business decision, no matter how much we liked the project.
What's it like seeing 80% of the value wiped out of your company, right? Because you obviously brought in investors at $1. People backed you, bought that stock. It's disappointing for them. It's disappointing for you. How do you manage that?
Oh, first of all, it sucks. You go through all the emotions. You go through justification that the market turned against us, that the project's still good, it's still got all the potential that we saw in it, that we did what we said we would. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're in business to make money, and we lost money. And so it gives you a huge motivation for me, and not just me, but our team, to go, let's turn this around. Let's prove that people's confidence in us was valid.
This is not uncommon for junior mining companies to see their share price cut by 50%, 80%, 90% as the cycles go up and down. I would say every investor's experienced this. I've certainly experienced this in my own portfolio, of having a management team really capitulate in those environments. Say, okay, look, there's no market for exploration. Let's basically turn this company into a shell. Right? You roll it back and you kind of wait for a new management team to take over or throw in a new asset or what have you. You guys chose a different path, right? To completely pivot and retool the business. What drove that?
So the vision never changed. We always wanted to be a producer. We were playing the long game because we were new. We were nobodies. We didn't have a lot of money. And so when it didn't work, it was so clear for us that we had to find something to turn it around, and we recognized that we could buy advanced quality projects so much more cheaply than we could keep exploring. And
they'd lost like 80% of their value at the time as well.
Correct.
Right?
We kind of joke that, even though we were really small, what we were buying had gone down even more, so it was an accretive transaction for us. So we risked everything. We raised more money than our market cap, $15 million when we were about 10 to 12 US market cap, in the bottom of the market, which was an incredibly difficult thing to do. And we would have made more money, all of us, if we'd have done it in a new venture. But that responsibility was ingrained in me as a kid. People trust you because of the commitments you make. We had to make it right.
How did you find the first acquisition, which is Paula, which we're going to go see soon? You went from explorer to going and trying to find more advanced stage assets. What did that look like?
So I think what separated us is a very clear vision of what we wanted. And so what we wanted was a cash engine. We looked at the companies that we thought had built businesses similar to ours and that had a mine that produced huge free cash flow. It didn't have to be a long mine life. And so we wanted something that was high grade, that didn't have to have necessarily the longest mine life, low capex, and a really robust resource. So none of those were like key technical risks of, is the gold really there? Mm-hmm. And we knew Paula. We knew it was an opportunity available that hadn't been well understood. And so it was one of a number of projects that we looked at. But what was special about Paula is when we got there, we saw the heart of it, that really core high grade zone. And from that moment on, we knew that was our vehicle.
So you identified the asset. You obviously approached the company about buying it. You get into that process, but then you got to get the money, right? And as you said, you're a tiny company that's kind of had the hell beat out of it over the previous year. How do you go about convincing investors to back you on that?
It was probably the hardest part of our whole story. Once you get the Brock moving, it's easier to keep rolling. And
I remember you talking to me about it and me thinking, this is crazy. This is a crazy pivot, because you rarely see that.
Okay, so we had some core supporters from the money we'd made people for Vizsla. Mm-hmm. So that helped to step one, so people were prepared to look past the immediate past to the fact that we had made people money. I'd always believed that you should be counter-cyclical, straw hats in winter, everyone teaches you this. No one tells you though that, even though the asset's really cheap, there's no money for it. So that's the battle, that's why things are cheap. we went out and we sort of got to 6, 7, 8 million, knowing that we needed a minimum of 12 and preferably 15. And it just got harder and harder and harder. I remember being on holiday and ringing people up and they didn't want to hear it. It was coming up to Christmas. And there was multiple times where I thought we weren't going to get there. And then, you know, those who persevere have a bit of luck. You know, I kept knocking on the right doors, found some key people who were like, yeah, actually see, or actually if you pitch it like this person will be interested. So it got a little bit of support just by hanging in there, and sort of by hook or by crook, we just did what we had to do.
Was there a moment where you were like, got it, we got it, like this is done?
You want to know the moment? The moment was when we had enough to do it, and Eric Sprott said he was coming in. And then we went from, how do we get this money, to, oh no, how do we fit Eric into the financing? That was the moment.
That's the story of getting Ana Paula now, right? But Ana Paula is a development stage, actually, and you're not just Ana Paula anymore. You've got producing mines. What happened there?
Yeah, I think if you break it down, there was a smart deal, and the smart deal was what our team saw in Ana Paula and delivered. It'll be fun to show you that. That was, you know, true technical insight driven by our technical strength as a company. Then, you know, there's an element of luck in buying the producers. We've bought 6 million ounces of gold, 2 operating mines for 15 million bucks. It legitimately is too good to be true. Like, that is a fair reaction to it. And so the next one was right place, right time. We'd bought this asset off a company, Ana Paula off a company, and sadly that company continued to get in trouble. A build of a mine didn't work for them and ultimately led them into financial difficulty. At the worst possible time, mid-23, there was still no market for gold going into 24. There was the president of Mexico was proclaiming that he didn't want future mining in Mexico, and you had this company choosing to sell its assets. So a forced sale at the bottom of the market gave us the bargain of a lifetime.
And over the next week, we're going to see Ana Paula, we're going to see St. Augustine, and we're going to see La Colorado. What role do these assets play in the Heliostar portfolio?
I think that's going to be the funnest thing to show you. You know, start with Durango, the cash flow that's given us from day one, that means we haven't had to dilute our shareholders. La Colorado, that consistent bridge production, and then that real light on the hill, what the economics of Ana Paula can be.
What do you want the people watching this video to take away from this journey over the next week or two?
I'd hope they see our team and the way that we're building a company together. I'd hopefully that they see that boldness is rewarded where it's backed by good science. And I hope they see a company that has a vision to become one of the best gold companies there is.
It was good to catch up with Charles, but talk is cheap. Now it's time to get our boots on the ground and find out what's actually going on at Heliostar. Gold price continues to hit all-time highs, and if you don't own gold equities, you're going to get left behind. In this series, we'll go behind the scenes and meet the people who are responsible for creating value in a company like Heliostar. We'll learn about the risks and challenges of operating in frontier jurisdictions. Most importantly, I'll ask the questions that every investor needs to know before investing their own money in a mining or natural resource company. Welcome to the Resource Insider.